Hey everybody, welcome to Apocalypse Rising. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you all had a good week. I know mine flew by. I'm glad it's Friday. I'm looking forward to the weekend. And I decided I'd make another video. I'm on a roll, so might as well keep it going. But before I get into it, I think I'm going to take a shot. What do I got here? Some Knob Creek cask strength rye whiskey. So this is pretty good stuff. Without any further ado, down the hatch. Whew. Boy, that's pretty strong. That tastes good. So my phone told me to make another video today. It basically showed me an article. It caught my attention, and I thought I'd share it. It's along the lines of the things we've been talking about pretty much all week. We started off with the melting ice and how to reverse climate change, if there's anything we can do, and what kind of ideas does science have to get us out of this debacle that we're in. And we went over geoengineering, solar geoengineering yesterday, and kind of thought about that a little bit. It definitely has more cons than pros, in my opinion. That's a last-ditch effort. And what we've got tonight is this article talking about the world's largest nuclear fusion project begins assembly in France. And this project aims to show clean fusion power can be generated at a commercial scale. And when you read this article, you're like, wow, 2020, it's going to be here in 5 years. This is awesome. It says that the world's largest nuclear fusion project began its 5-year assembly phase on Tuesday in southern France, with the first ultra-hot plasma expected to be generated in late 2025. So apparently by the time it's producing this plasma, that's when we can, get the energy from it. Now, this thing costs a lot of money. I'm not very good with my pounds or my euros, but this looks like it's in the billions. And I'm sure that's US dollars as well. It would cost billions of dollars to make this plant. And it basically replicates the reactions that power the sun and intend to demonstrate fusion power can be generated on a commercial scale. Nuclear fusion promises clean, unlimited power, but despite 60 years of research, it is yet to overcome the technical challenges of harnessing such extreme amounts of energy. So these things just make so much energy, like the sun, that we failed to be able to contain it. We haven't been able to contain fusion, but apparently the technologies have evolved in such a way that we feel like we're getting close, that we can actually create this, I'll call it a prototype, in a real world scale and see if it works. And, it goes on to say millions of components will be used. It's the most complex engineering endeavor in history. There's all these magnets and superconducting cables. I mean, it has to be kept at negative 269 degrees Celsius by the world's largest cryogenic plant. So you got to keep this thing cool. And that takes a lot of energy to keep something at this temperature. That's not a natural temperature. You got to use energy to bring the temperature down to that. But in lieu of all of this material and possible energy, the French president Emmanuel Macron launched the assembly phase alongside senior figures from ITER members of all these different countries, and feels like that this, I believe, disruptive innovation will play a key role in addressing global issues, including climate change and realizing a sustainable carbon-free society, essentially using fusion clean energy to reach our goal of being carbon free. And as we were talking about with the melting ice, that needs to happen fast, because it's starting to put out mass amounts of greenhouse gases itself. And so it doesn't really matter how much we're putting out if we're not sucking it back in. this isn't really going to be too big of a deal anyway. And he goes on to say, enabling the exclusive use of clean energy will be a miracle for our planet. I mean, this is another one of those kind of things. It's not a last ditch effort because this seems a little more feasible, but we're looking for miracles at this point, to try to save us from our demise when it comes to cataclysmic climate change, really. And they go on to say how it's going to be constructed and kind of how it works a little bit. It's basically plasma and magnets and things like that. And here's where it kind of gets sketchy. So you see the headlines and you're like, great, nuclear fusion, yes, unlimited energy. But then you look and it says, like conventional nuclear fission reactors, the process itself does not produce climate warming carbon dioxide, but fusion reactors cannot melt down and produce much less radioactive waste. Oh, everything was good until right here. It still produces radioactive waste, huh? Well, that's not entirely free energy and unlimited because there's still waste produced by it. So that's unfortunate. And it will be the first to achieve this whole process here. And it's expected to generate 10 times more heat than it puts in. And this is far more than any previous attempts. So that's great. I mean, if they can get it to work and it puts out 10 times more than you have to put in, that's going to be a lot of energy. But here's where it gets a little squirrely for me. It will also use a significant amount of electrical energy when it's running to power the magnets and scientific instruments. Well, what do you mean then? That's not doing anything. How are we producing the significant amount of electrical energy that this needs with coal and oil and natural gas and all that stuff? I mean, you can't tell me that wind power is going to give you a significant amount of electrical energy that's going to help you harness the sun. I don't think so. That's going to take a lot of greenhouse gas emitting methods to power it. And the worst part about it is they're doing that because this is not intended to be like an actual thing. It's intended to be a proof of concept for a future commercial reactor. So yeah, this thing might come on in 5 years, but it's not the fusion reactor miracle that we need. It's the same thing as geoengineering. It's not feasible. It's not going to do the trick fast enough, in my opinion. After reading this, you're talking about all the money you have to put into making a proof of concept over 5 years. What if it doesn't even work? Breakfast! This is something that is going to take a significant amount of electrical energy when it's running just to prove the concept. And then what is it going to do? It doesn't even say if it's going to somehow revert to its own power that will run all the stuff as it puts out 10 times. So let's say it puts out 10 times more than it takes to generate, and you have to use 9 out of 10 of the energy you generate to rerun and power all the magnets and scientific instruments. Well, you still get 1 times more than you put in. That's great. That's it. That's all you need. You just needed to put out more than you put in. But if to power all this stuff, it takes 10 times or more, then you're still with a net negative.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
And you've got something that puts out radioactive waste. So it's not really clear in here because it's just a proof of concept. It doesn't go much further than that. And so it just basically says that we are convinced that faster progress is possible, driven by the need for more carbon-free energy and enabled by private investment, modular designs, new materials, and advanced technologies. So this still needs a lot of investment. It needs money. And so they've got people like Jeff Bezos, Google, a lot of high-powered, lots of money is getting pumped into this, and that's just to prove concept. And you have to do that first, but it's just so misleading when you read something like this. and it says that you're going to have all this by 2025. And when you start reading, it's like, oh, you have to keep it at negative 269. That's going to take a lot of energy. You have to produce all of this stuff. That takes a lot of energy and uses fossil fuels and all that stuff. You're looking for a miracle, as you move down. Oh, it explains that, oh, there's radioactive waste, and that it's going to take a significant amount of electrical energy to power this proof of concept. And by the time you get down to the end, you're like, oh, it still needs so much more time and money that this isn't going to come in time either.
He needs some milk.
We're still hoping that somehow the worst case scenario doesn't occur, but by the looks of it, it's happening. So far, that's 2 strikes, in my opinion, in our research here to find a solution for climate change. We've got solar geoengineering. That's a dud.
Damn, Daniel.
In my opinion. And now we've got nuclear fusion, which I think is probably not as good as it sounds. So I guess that's all I'll say about this one. And I hope you all have some plans for the weekend. And, just hang in there. I'm trying not to get caught up with the election coming up and the stock market and all that stuff. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, because in my personal opinion, it's going to be the next 3 months that are going to be make or break for this initial issue that we're having here. And then after that, we can worry about climate change. Maybe I'm just doing this to distract myself from the immediate threat that's going on at the moment. But I still think this is the overarching crisis that's looming. So I think that's enough doom and gloom for one day. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.